Thank you. Hello, everybody. We are just getting us started. We're just populating the Zoom room. Hopefully you have something to drink, maybe a little lunch snack with you. We're in a comfortable place. Please get yourself settled and we'll start in a moment. So thank you for making the time to join us today. All right. So we'll slowly get started. Welcome. I'm Helen Archontou. I'm the CEO of the YWCA of Northern New Jersey. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am so happy to have you with us today on our Zoom room, which feels hopefully cozy wherever you are. And, we are grateful that you could join us for WEN on the Go, which is part of our Women's Empowerment Network event. And today's event, we're so grateful to have our sponsor, Bergen Newbridge Medical Center, to support this wonderful event and this important conversation today. If you don't know, WEN on the Go is one of our signature events that offers conversations and opportunities for professional women, small business owners, and women who want to stay connected to topics that impact their lives. Gives us an opportunity to bring those women together so that you can network, exchange ideas, and get some actionable advice to help you grow professionally and personally. And even though we're on Zoom, there's still an opportunity for you to stay connected and to be chatting with the others. We'd love for you right now to drop in the chat if you'd like. No pressure to do it, but who you are, where you're from. It's great for people to know who's here with us, for those who want to share. And again, please use the chat as an opportunity to react to what you're hearing and, stay engaged in the conversation. All of our WEN programs, whether they're about our financial wellness series, whether it's small business support or professional development, again, is just this great opportunity to learn, to share, and to grow. And we know a lot of you love to post about these events and something that inspired you from them through your social media. So if you are doing that, we'd love for you to use the hashtag WhenOnTheGo. I believe that we're saying the chat is disabled. So I'm sorry, getting the note about that. Apologize about that. I'm not sure if we can enable it in the course of the Zoom. So if not, I apologize for that, but we are grateful that you could join us. So again, hashtag YWNOnTheGo if you would like to use that. We also want to let you know, obviously the Q&A feature is working because I did get some communication there just now. Please feel free to add questions while we're talking into the Q&A. We will have time in this hour together to incorporate your questions and to bring them into the conversation so you too can talk to Debbie directly with any kind of questions. And we do have the chat enabled. And with that, I'm going to say yay for the YW team behind the scenes that helped plan the event and are getting us connected today. We are grateful for them, as well as I started with our sponsor, Bergen Newbridge Medical Center, for helping us bring this conversation to you today. So this is a really special hour for me because obviously I love when I bring together a circle of women, whether it's in person or virtually, because I do believe that there's so much power in that sharing that happens. But this is extra special for me because of who I'm talking to today. And I wish I was with her because I'd be holding her hand while we were chatting, because she really is someone that's near and dear to me. But, not only do I get to call her friend, but she really is one of my sheroes. And, she really brings so much to the table for a conversation like this. She is a mom. She is a wife. She is a woman leader in a place and a space that there are not a lot of women. She is a Latina leader also in a place, again, that there's not a lot of, women of color, represented. And, in all of that, she's also just a community support person. And, she, wherever there is need, she pops up and she is there. So, I mean, there's so much to learn from this wonderful human being that we're talking to today. And I'm just so happy that she could make the time, because let me tell you, she, practically works on roller skates because she's moving so much and so many places day to day throughout her day. So we are so grateful that she could have some time here today. And we are going to talk about, obviously, a lot of the pieces of Deb that roll up into who she is. And really what brought us to this conversation was, for me, is I have had, it's just been in awe of watching her during this global pandemic, watching how she has led really an epicenter for New Jersey, not just for our county, but for New Jersey, and taking the lead in supporting communities through a global pandemic. And she did it with passion, and she did it with really her core values being, at the forefront of every action that she took, on behalf of her healthcare system and on behalf of her team. And, she always did it with, combating all the stuff that comes with being Debbie Visconi. Again, being a woman, being a Latina, all that comes, that you're dealing with every day, on top of, this time. So there's so much to get from this conversation. So with that, let me start by welcoming Debbie. Thank you for being here with me.
Hi, Helen. Thank you so much. Wow, I am speechless, which is going to be awfully awkward for both of us since we have an hour to talk.
I'll get it out of you. I will.
Well, anybody who knows me knows that, speechless doesn't really resonate with me, but thank you for the intro. I truly am humbled to be part of this conversation with you. And I think, we're the Mutual Admiration Society because you are one of my she heroes. And, I truly admire the work that you do for all of us at the YWCA and your leadership in this space. So thank you for having me on.
Well, I thank you for saying that. I want to make sure that, and it's so nice to see that. Thank you again to the team for getting the chat enabled, and happy to have so many. I know some of you have chimed in here. We have Jennifer from our YWCA USA. So happy you could make the time, and Melanie Franco, who is with Atlantic Health System, another kind of in the world of your work, and so many of your team at Bergen Newbridge Medical Center here. So it's so wonderful. We've got Janet Sharma from the community, and so many of our YW team, including our board president. I mean, what a gift to have all of you together on this conversation. And let me tell you, in case you don't know the background of this, wonderful leader we have with us today. She began her career 30 years ago. She's got 30 years of success in providing strategic direction, vision, leadership, and oversight in operations in hospitals and healthcare systems across the metropolitan region. She is a true visionary thinker with a strong passion for patient experience. She leads with a focus and compassion, consistency, and quality. Due to her remarkable career, she was identified and selected to be the champion leader tasked to transition New Jersey's largest hospital from its former for-profit management model to the new nonprofit community asset, now known as Bergen Newbridge Medical Center. And for those of us who have been around Bergen County for, years, we know what it was, and we know what it is today. So that alone, and that doesn't even add all the other layers, tells us what kind of magician we have with us here today in terms of our conversation. Since she arrived in 2017 in this role, she did transform a community and safety net hospital into a destination hospital. As a Latinx hospital leader, she understands unique aspects and needs of the underserved and minority communities. She has prioritized the hospital's community health needs assessment process and its ongoing outreach efforts. This led to the hospital's development of the first LGBTQ wellness center in Northern New Jersey and recognition as an LGBTQ healthcare equality in the Human Rights Campaign Health Equity Index. In 2018, Bergen Newbridge became a veterans community care provider to increase access of care to more than 40,000 Bergen County veterans. In 2021, the medical center was recognized as a top hospital and earning the highest grade A safety rating from the Leapfrog Group. Deb also pioneered technology initiatives, which led to Bergen Newbridge to be the first hospital in the state to connect to New Jersey Health Information Network. She continues to lead us through this COVID-19 time that just kind of keeps evolving. But, they have been on the forefront of testing, on vaccination, therapeutics. I personally, and as did my family, we all got our vaccines at Bergen Newbridge Medical Center. And I can just say, considering what a large enterprise you have going there and what you were pushing out, it was such a easy, seamless experience, for those who came in to use it, and of all ages, from my 9-year-old twins to my 91-year-old mother and the rest of the family in between. I think the only one who hasn't come yet is Buddy Bear, the dog, to get treated soon. Yes. And I don't put that past you and your team to put that on the horizon. But, not only were they, again, at the forefront of testing vaccinations and therapeutics, consistent with her commitment to healthcare outreach and education, she collaborated with the county to launch programs that deliver care on site directly via telehealth. They had mobile vans out in the community. They truly have been everywhere, treating and supporting Bergen County and beyond. So with that, let's jump into the conversation. The Q&A is coming in already. The chat's coming in. So please keep the questions coming as we're talking, folks. Please keep your reactions to our conversation coming in the chat. This is such a tremendous opportunity to be able to access Deb and hear from her. So, I guess we should start with COVID-19, although there's so many places we could start because, there was a whole life for you that happened before then. But wow, were you really, called to serve in a way that you had never even imagined was coming? You navigated COVID-19 and made significant changes and addressed ongoing challenges while, you were, transforming and revolutionizing a healthcare system. You had these two huge parallel experiences happening side by side. Many of the barriers and obstacles that, those who were dealing with, that you were kind of trying to transform, again, and you were also bringing new folks in, to being served. Tell us, how did you get through these challenges and manage these two huge pieces that not only meant such, significant need for patient care, but at the same time working on these technological advancements and moving this building, this infrastructure, within the building and the people, the people capital of your operation? How did you bring everything, forward to be able to, at the same time, answer this, unbelievable need, but also improve your healthcare system?
I feel a little tired all of a sudden after you just said
Yeah.
It really, for me, it was embracing the people that work with me. This, I may be considered the CEO, and I view the CEO as the chief engagement officer. And so I really can't take credit for anything that happened. It was really the embracing of my team, the most dedicated professionals that I've ever had the privilege to work with. It was a terrifying time back when this whole thing started, and none of us knew what to expect or what was going to happen. There was so much uncertainty, but embracing the team, communicating with people, reaching out beyond the walls of the hospital to our colleagues in the county and others in the community to understand, what was going on out there, what was happening on the ground. How can we, as this incredible county asset and state asset, help people, comforting them, providing access to care, opening our doors, and it was just always being there at the forefront. When testing came out, remember going to my team and trying to figure out how we're going to test people. and my team came up with the answers. We're going to open up the ambulance bay. We're going to stand out there, in our PPE, and we're going to bring people in and we're going to test them. It was figuring out what was the best way to provide the care, listening to our communities, standing strong, engaging our frontline staff, and really trust. People, the staff trusted me. Our union colleagues, we leveraged each other. Communication with our unions was very important, and I would get everyone together virtually, of course, on phone calls, and just figure out, what are we doing? What do we need to do together? What do we need to do? What does our staff need? What does our community need? How can we get access to the test kits? How do we get access to PPE? And it really became a system within a system, and as you mentioned, all the while, I was only 2 years really into my time here as CEO. I had started at the end of 17, so 18, 19, and this started in 20. So I was still very new in the role, and it was really keeping everybody motivated, being present. I was here with the staff every day, on the front lines, figuring out what they needed. We came to work every single day, even though we were equally as scared as they were. It was showing people that vulnerability, like, I don't really know what to do. And if you guys can help us figure this out, let's do it together. So it was a little bit of everything, a lot of human connection and engagement.
Yeah, and I have to say, I think that was one of the things I was most struck by in terms of your leadership, is that you were everywhere. You were there. Every time I had walked into the facility, and I even myself as someone who used the facility as kind of a coming in, as I said, whether I came in with my mother to get our vaccines, or when I brought the kids, or when my husband, it doesn't matter what time of day we showed up, you were there. And I know you were also in the main hospital working too, but you always were walking through and personally eyeballing, to make sure that everything was, working the way that you had a vision of. And I think that speaks a lot from a leadership perspective.
Well, thanks, Helen. For me, it really, even today, this is just who I am. No matter what time of day or night, people reach out to me and ask me questions, or they need advice, or they need access, or anything. And no matter who it is, day or night, my phone is always on, my emails, I respond all the time to people. I just put myself in the shoes of people, and people deserve that respect of a response. And even if I don't know the answer, and I'll say that to people, I have no idea, but I will get back to you and I'll help you figure this out with you. And, that went a long way with people, and just assuring people with that trust and that confidence that, we deliver, we put actions, to our words, and we stand up strong for our communities, with our communities. We don't do this alone. It truly does take the village, and it's been a village for us. Again, our relationships with our partners, our county colleagues, our county executive, our commissioners, all of our community partners, really are important to us in order for us to do the work that we do.
And, for those that are kind of checked in today, I think Deb has just said so much to us in terms of like keeping our own notes, because, obviously part of the reason we join these discussions is to, to listen and get inspired about what can we do differently. I'm a leader of an organization as well, and I always want to be my best self so that I can be for our community. But, you talked about creating lines of communication. You talked about showing that vulnerability, if I could say that word, if it comes out easily. You talked about, being able to, have a really strong team. You're, being as responsive as quickly as possible and not letting people hang. You said a lot there in terms of us to be taking notes about how to really be, present. And it sounds like, because, as I said, you were in this space before COVID, and you were navigating, really a yeoman's task, before, we got to this time. So those were some of your just leadership skills that you employed, it sounds like. Did you find that there was anything additional that you really needed during this time that you had to like harness new or different than just regular, kind of running the show?
It took a lot of courage, right, to be able to walk the halls when people were scared, when there was shortages of PPE, when you didn't know what was going to happen next. So there was a lot of pulling the courage together and just getting out there and knowing that people were counting on you, right? They're counting on you as the leader. And so you always want to, show that brave face and be courageous. But there was moments of vulnerability, like, when we lost our first staff member, and then, what do you do? Everybody was like, what do you do? What do we do? Do we say it? Do we not say it? And I said, you know what? We have to talk about it because we lost a staff member, and our staff is mourning that loss. I was mourning that loss. That was probably a turning point for me, that first death. And, it was, I just led from the heart. And I said, our staff deserves to know that this happened to their colleague, because it happened to all of us. And so those types of things, one of the things that I took back from my team, my staff, one of our doctors was like, everybody, there was a lot of anxiety, to say the least. And they would come in and start, yelling and, we don't hear anything. We don't know what's going on. There's no communication. And so I started a daily CEO letter to the staff every single day, 7 days a week. We would write a letter to the staff, and it wouldn't just be a fact, how many COVID cases, you can get that from governor's daily debriefs. It would be about what was happening at the hospital. I would shout out a certain person or a certain group. We would talk about the vulnerabilities that we're feeling. We would talk about, and just really communicate in a very deliberate and empathetic way with the staff. And people would see me in the halls and they were like, oh my God, we look forward to your letter every single day. It gets us through the day. It gets us through the night. And, it's so funny. I did that for 2 years, and I'm still doing it today, although I don't do it every day. I do it weekly, and it has a different texture to it, but I communicate to the staff every week, the CEO letter, and they look forward to it. And the staff tells me, like, they walk around the halls, they're like, we get your letter. We love to hear what you have to say. So, that actually was a new thing for me to do. I believe very, very strongly in the power of the people that do the work. Having, been my career as a grassroots career, I started at the bedside as a phlebotomist. So I know how important it is to respect the voices of the people that touch your patients, whether it's a phone touch, a computer touch, a stethoscope touch. And so I am very, very passionate about making sure those voices are heard and respected.
Well, that is such a great piece that popped out of this time, and wonderful that you've been able to keep some version of it going, since it was kind of a glue for your team. And, I'm sitting here listening to you thinking, I need to make time to do something like that on the weekly, for our team. So I really thank you for sharing that, because I can see how, especially when you are dealing with such a large entity, right? And people who are on here are working in different size organizations. It doesn't really matter what size. There's something you can pull from this conversation for sure. But especially when you're dealing with such a large entity, having that kind of making it feel personal to whoever's in the organization that they are connected to you is huge. So you've been really proactive and getting in front of a lot of the pieces of your work, and really focusing on areas that a lot of, I feel like a lot of healthcare facilities and organizations really end up being reactive, when they put these pieces in place. And one of them, which, I know has been a passion project for you and definitely has been so well embraced by our community, is implementing the first LGBTQ wellness center in Northern New Jersey. Can you talk a little bit about how that came about, and, how you put that in place, and, what it was like to, kind of be the lead and forge the way in, especially again, in such a large entity, making this a priority?
So, I'm always looking at ways that we can best serve our communities, especially those that are of vulnerability and those that are stigmatized. And through my career, my life's work, I do know that the LGBTQIA community is underserved and stigmatized wherever you are. And it's has been a passion of mine and my calling to be sure that we take those head on, address them, and do whatever we can to make these communities feel embraced and engaged and a comfortable place that they can call home. And so I had done this work in a previous organization that I worked for. And when I got here to Bergen, Newbridge, and I knew, again, there was a huge population here that needed our help. And I know what we have to do, provide the access. And I had that vision. And again, my team, I have the vision, and they make it reality. They make my vision a reality. And I say, this is what I want to do. This is why I want to do it. This is why it's so important to the communities. We have to be out there. We have to be out front. They need us. And everybody gets to work. And I had worked with the Human Rights Campaign, the Health Equality Index, again, in my previous roles. And I said, we have to show the world that we mean it, because in order to be a leader in the HEI, you have to really demonstrate by policy and actions. This is not just checking a box. I mean, this is a real designation of leadership for this community. And so we embraced it. We ran with it. We identified a couple of people within the organization that also had a passion for it. And we made it happen. And I might add that we actually cut the ribbon for it right in the middle of COVID. So, but to me, that was such a demonstration of our commitment to this community. And like, yes, COVID is happening here, and that eventually will go away, but we need to serve you today. And we are so committed to that we are going to make this happen right in the middle of COVID. And so, yeah, it's really gratifying when the community comes together and says, thank you for doing this for us. So, it's about the vision and the commitment to doing what's right for what our communities need.
Well, I mean, that couldn't have been a stronger message to our LGBTQ plus community, that this isn't going to wait, that this is a priority and we're still going to make this happen now. So, along these lines, and it's we know that there is an imbalance of gender equity in healthcare. We know that it is a male-dominated space as you go higher and higher, especially. And we also know that not only are there not many women, there's even less women of color, sitting in seats like you're in or the seats around you. So how do we build a more equitable workplace and create more opportunities for all, and that we bring that diversity all through the leadership of such a complex environment like yours with all these layers to it? And in doing that, how do we also balance keeping that culture free of sexual harassment, of racism, and all of these issues? I know I see Melanie's chiming in and, yes, more opportunities are needed. But there's not a lot of women at the helm to be able to, sing in that chorus. And how are we getting the men that are currently leaders and the male dominated boards, to be acknowledging this as well?
So, I mean, to me, it's venues like what you're doing today. It's embracing leaders like you and what you're doing with the YWCA, and leveraging voices like mine and others that are in leadership positions to create that space, to create those opportunities, whether they be mentorship programs or sponsorship programs or networking opportunities where you get to meet each other and lift each other up and provide the opportunities. I always say you hire the best person for the job, which you do. But sometimes you have to look beyond, the outside and dig deeper into your organization. We are male dominated at the top for sure, but there's a lot of people beneath us that are because there's a lot of women in the field of healthcare. So to me, it's reaching down to those levels and identifying those people. If you think about I heard this somewhere. This is not an original Debbie Visconi thought, but I really, really resonated with me. There are 7 CEOs within your organization. Go find them. And I spend time thinking about that and reaching down and finding the people that have the talent, have the passion. It's not always the person who has the greatest CV or has gone to the Ivy League schools. It's about the people who, for me, it's about the people who have the passion, who have that burn, that calling. For me, for my entire life, it's been my North Star, my calling of what I wanted to do. And I find those people and I give them opportunities and we invest in them and we support each other. And it's voices like what you're doing, Helen. I mean, you do this incredibly well for all of us. And so it's really embracing those voices and bringing them forth and promoting the people, promoting the women, especially the next gen. Like, I'm not going to be around forever. So I want the next generation to have the opportunities that I had. And it took me obviously 30 years to get to where I am, but we want to make that happen faster.
For sure. And I have to say, I do really appreciate the success story of you being a phlebotomist and now being a CEO and like everything in your journey in between. And I know, as I said, I know Melanie's on here and I know a little bit about her background. She's another person who's kind of been like rising the ranks in her system. And it is really important to see that, right? And to have those models within organizations, because, it does create that belief system that, this is attainable for everybody, and we need that. We need that for the inspiration, because these jobs are difficult. I mean, my goodness, what you all have been through to support all of us that are not in healthcare, alone, is these, forget the lifetime and the body of your work for sure, but just these last, few years. So I'm reminding our folks that are with us that you can drop in the Q&A and that I will get to it. And before I do that, I'm going to just ask you a question that I think is important to ask. Obviously, you have a crazy busy schedule and you're always going. And I didn't tell you I was asking you this question, by the way. So, but, how do you keep yourself energized? How do you kind of refuel yourself? Because, I mean, Lord knows you've got to be working on empty, especially obviously during the last 2 years, but, on the regular, how do you keep yourself build yourself back up? I think that's so important to share that with each other, because, we spend a lot of time at the YW hosting these kind of gatherings and talking about self-care and talking about, not waiting for that, traumatic event to make your health a priority, doing it and doing that just on the regular. How do you make that space for yourself so that you can be all that we're talking about once you walk into the doors of Bergen Newbridge Medical Center?
Yeah, well, that's probably the hardest thing for me. And I'm working on that, but how I energize myself is with the people that surround me every day. And whether it's, my immediate family, my husband, my kids, my mother, my sisters, my nieces and nephews, my really good friends, but also the people that I work with every day. I enjoy working with my team and my colleagues, and, being able to, when I get here, being able to talk with them and share things and laugh is keeps me motivated. Personally, I don't do a lot. I don't have a lot of hobbies. I do like to read junk books, and during the summer months, I like to sit on the beach and get a nice tan. I do like to listen to music and kitchen dance. I do exercises. I exercise every day to keep my physical health, of course. But it's really, it's a lot of it's in my own head. How I relate to people, relationships, talking. I bring humor into the workplace. I think that's really important for people. Work is hard, work is tiring, and to be able to bring some levity to the table and be able to laugh at, I laugh at myself and I laugh with the team. I know they laugh at me quite regularly. But yes, I think that is definitely the hardest thing. I do try to keep myself, go to all my preventive maintenance, if you will, go to my annual checkup, do all my preventive screenings. I am very passionate about making sure I do that. So I do always encourage people to make sure they take care of their physical health, go see your primary care doctor, get your screening, get your mammograms and your colonoscopies, that is really, really important. So, that I think also helps balance.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that because, I know I get asked that question all the time. And I always want to say that I'm, a model that people could follow in that area, but I'm not because and so I appreciate that you share some of the pieces that you kind of hold and some of the pieces that you're still working on. Jennifer is loving the kitchen dance. And it's true. Jennifer is writing here that it's so important to find joy in the moment and grab a hold of it. And I couldn't agree more because, life is hard. Forget that work is hard, but life is hard, right? There's always a lot coming at us. So you definitely need to find those moments of joy. And it is amazing how those moments can refuel you, even though they are, they can be intense and short, but that they can fuel you for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's you just, as Jennifer just said, you grab that moment. I love to cook, so cooking and I love to dance, so the two go together.
Yes,
I
love
have
that.
been trying to take up golf, but that's tough. That's tough to do. But that's something that eventually I'm going to do.
Well, and golf is one of those things, right? I mean, a lot of women have, it's not a sport that a lot of women, historically have been socialized, but we know that that's where a lot of the big deals happen, in the, in the business world. So I can, first of all, it is a great sport from a physical health perspective, but it's also a great business strategy, right? To be able to, be in that space for sure.
So Helen, for today, all the people that are on this call, we have to break the golf glass ceiling for women because it's true. Like, I mean, yes, there are women that play golf, but when it's overwhelming.
Yes, yes, yes.
So we have to do it.
For sure. And I think you also got called out from one of your staff that they want a boardroom dance, not just a kitchen dance. So sorry about that, but I think you're going to have to pony up on that one for sure. So, you mentioned mentors, and, I know that you have created that space within your system. Who have been some of your mentors that have really, helped shape the philosophies that you're sharing with us now? And, what did they leave you with, that helped Deb Visconi be who she is today?
Interestingly enough, and I guess maybe because it was the time when my career was growing, most of my informal mentors were men. But and it wasn't formal mentoring programs. It was really just, mentoring. It's more relationships. And things that I've taken away are things, what not to do, what doesn't work as a leader. But just, tenacity, never taking no for an answer, focusing on the bigger picture, the bigger goal of what you're trying to achieve, never losing sight of that goal and let the noise fall to the side. Those are some of the things, that I took back from my mentors as I was growing up. And, when in my laboratory days, the early part of my career was when I was a medical laboratory technologist. Some of the senior techs, that was much more female dominated because of course that was frontline, were really like, you have to pave the way, Debbie, for the future. You have what it takes. You have that energy, you have that drive. You're smart. You got to go to the top and make changes for all of us. And those words always resonate with me from Joanne Liager, one of the senior techs in microbiology at Memorial Sloan Kettering. I'll never forget her words. And she drove me. She really drove me to go get my master's degree and, take over the world. We're going to change the world. And that's the path I've been on.
Well, I appreciate hearing that. I know that, mentors are so important, and, it's not surprising to me to hear, because you really are forging ahead in a space that there are not a lot of, female CEOs and, CEOs of color for sure. That it's not surprising for me to hear that you've, your mentors have been men. And it also does remind us that there can be allies out there, and that it is a matter of kind of activating them and helping them help us, for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean,
And
you don't grow your career alone. And so, many men have helped me and encouraged me and mentored me and given me opportunities, to grow.
And so we do have a question asking us about what kind of mentoring opportunities have you created internally within your system, and maybe how could we help others get them started if their leaders aren't exactly there yet? How can we get folks that are in different places in an organization to get that to be considered as a priority?
So I did two things over the last year and a half, as I'm, really thinking about ways to continue to grow the people within the organization. One was a program that I rolled out directly out of my office, retain, listen, and collaborate for the directors within the organization that we thought were high potential and that, could possibly, again, we have to always be thinking about succession planning within an organization. So we identified about a dozen people that we put into the program. People would come and meet with me personally, and we would talk about, what are the things that they're doing that they want to do? How can we help grow their careers? Do they see themselves staying at Bergen Newbridge, going other places? Kind of really connecting purpose to what they're doing. That was one program for the directors. And then from those discussions, we launched a formal mentoring program. And so several of our senior leaders have become mentors. And then we have a group of people that they're mentoring. And then once that group graduates, we'll bring on another group. So those are some of the things that, we've been doing. They're not, earth shattering. A lot of people have mentoring programs, but, we hope that ours is more action oriented, like we're giving people opportunities. We're identifying those, we have to find those 7 CEOs and we're, I have an open door. So people want to come in and talk with me or share ideas or send me an email. I will never turn anyone down to have a conversation with them. And I think for organizations that haven't gotten there yet, the second part of the question, I think, we can help each other. What I would recommend to everyone on this call, women should help each other, pull each other up, support each other. We shouldn't be jealous or hurting each other or backstabbing or, she got promoted and I didn't, and I'm going to, make sure that doesn't happen again. Help each other, because there's plenty of opportunities. And, you get further if you embrace each other and help each other. So I would just suggest that to everybody, help each other.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I see, Hollis Thomas, our board chair, saying a lot of her mentors really were men, and that she had to make deliberate outreach to women. So it does speak to the fact that, again, unfortunately, because there's so few of us, in our seats, even myself as a CEO in the nonprofit sector, women are everywhere in the nonprofit sector, but there are not a lot of us, that are, leading organizations. And so it definitely does remind us that we actually have to actively create a space and put our hands out to other women around us, to create that network of support. So, I'm thinking about something we can leave our group here today with. I know that you have had to problem solve, and that is kind of saying it lightly. Some of the biggest conundrums, you came into a system and transformed it. into something. It wasn't even an evolution, it was a revolution, what you've really led over there. What are some of the skills that you really had to call on and develop to be able to bring people to the table who maybe were not so inclined, to be part of these conversations, didn't understand what and why, this was a priority and important. And how did you get to the point where you could be like, well, now that's done, let's move on to the next thing, because they were not small things. And I know that those that are with us today are all, many folks are in places where they're, trying to problem solve issues within their organization, no matter where they are in the structure. But, what are some of the things that have worked for you that have really helped dislodge challenges and move them toward solutions?
Transparency comes to mind, pretty top of mind, being transparent with those you're leading and those, that you're working with, not just leading, but, the community. So transparency, integrity, delivering on your word, that is so important to me to tell people, if I'm going to do something, I will do it. And if I can't do it, I'll tell you why I can't do it, or right now is not the time. So that kind of ties into also transparency, being honest, humility, recognizing that you don't know everything and you shouldn't know everything. And there's this old adage that if you're the smartest person in the room, you need to find a new room. And I know that in that boardroom that I'll be dancing at, I'm not the smartest person. Everybody in that room is way smarter than me. But so just recognizing that, communication skills, and I know that sounds almost cliche, got to communicate, but that's one of the things that I think is so important. You can't ever communicate enough. And you can say the message, but you have to say it in so many different ways, because people consume information, interpret it in so many different ways. A lot of times my team will say, well, we said that to them. We sent them an email. There was a global, blast that said it. Nobody reads anything. Well, that's true. People read less and less these days. So you can never over communicate a message or a point. And so that was also very important, skill to make sure you understand that component of humanity. You can't over communicate. Recognizing the differences of people that you lead and that you have to work with, and where, everyone, again, interprets life and messages differently, and just recognizing that and being able to rephrase, reconnect, re-engage, engagement, if people, and that goes also into delivering on your word. Like, you engage somebody and you're not just a talking head saying, oh, yeah. You're listening to them and then taking action based on that. And then, my favorite is courage. I mean, it takes a lot of courage to be able to embrace all of those attributes and show that vulnerability and show that integrity and that honesty. And I think that for sure has gone a long way for me.
Well, and, to that end, Stephanie is asking if you've ever thought of writing a book. I mean, it sounds like I know, which is why I asked you to come sit and chat with us today, is that you have so much to share. So there's the question. I didn't make it up.
I would love to write a book. I haven't had the wherewithal. There's another thing I should be doing, right? I should sit and write a book, because there are so many things in life that have led me to where I am and who I am, that I think people could find valuable. I would hope they would find valuable. So thanks for that, Stephanie.
Yes. And if nothing else, at least start with a journal article, and then that'll be the basis for you to build on. I have to say something else that I think you and your team do really well. And I can just say this as a community partner that, that definitely engages with all of you. And I think is really one of your superpowers, is that you celebrate. I mean, you are a group that brings people together and just says, we did it, whatever it is. Right. And I think that really is energizing and inspiring for your team.
That's very funny that you say that. and I will call her out because you know her, and many people on this call know her, Donnelly Corriere, my Chief Communications Officer. So every time we're going to do something, and I'll always say to her, who's going to want to come to this? No one's going to come. What are you worried about? And then like 1,000 people show up. So, but that's the power of people. That is the power that, I bring forth to our communities. It's that unity of purpose. It's that, we're all in this for a reason, and we're we're going to celebrate. We're going to dance. We're going to talk about it. We're going to cut a ribbon. We're red ribbons. But to me, that is really about giving back to the staff. Like, so they know what they're doing is important and that it deserves a celebration and it deserves, a newspaper article or a journal article. I mean, it's that kind of connection to the people that I think is just so powerful.
Yes. And I know that you all just celebrated a big 5-year anniversary, and that's actually why we're talking now. This is part of, I know, the celebration of the system. October is a big banner month for all of you. So congratulations on that. And we're going to be celebrating you. Our whole community is going to be celebrating you on November 1st at our Walk the Talk Gala for the YWCA of Northern New Jersey, along with some other very equally powerful and amazing women. And so we hope that all of you that are with us today will join us for that celebration at Westmount Country Club at 6:30 p.m. on November 1st. We'll drop the link in here so that you can get your tickets. But, it was a no-brainer to make sure that we were celebrating Deb because of everything you've heard today and everything you haven't. So before we wrap up, I want to ask you one last question that, is from my heart to yours, Deb. Obviously we've got a circle of women with us here today, but I know, and I know both of, I know both of your children are really the, you hold at the center of everything you do. But I'm just thinking, especially being a circle of women here today, what is a message that you make sure that you really reinforce with your daughter about, moving forward in this world, and she, of course, as you, is is a Latina female and moving in places and spaces where, she's, creating space for others.
Oh boy. What I would tell my daughter and everyone's daughters is love yourself, be proud of who you are, whatever that is, and whoever that is, because there's only one of you. And one of the things that I was at another webinar a couple of weeks ago for a Latino healthcare executives. And one of the questions was, what has been the biggest obstacle in your career? And I said, myself. Don't ever be afraid of who you are. Find your voice and use it. And just have that courage to let the world know who you are.
Well, thank you. And I think that's a great place for us to be able to wrap up today. I clearly from the chat here, so much of what you said has resonated, for our whole crew, that is together. I really love what you said, that you shared, that, you had come across about that the 7 CEOs are deeply embedded in our organizations. I know that some of those CEOs are on this chat right now, and, they are here, and they are here to, glean from you so that they can rise, in their systems. And I think the other thing that I want to make sure everyone leaves here today with, and hopefully before you go to bed tonight, that you do kitchen dance or boardroom dance or somewhere dance today and find that moment of joy, because life is hard, work is hard. There's no doubt that, that our hard work definitely, although sometimes, there's tough days, especially in the field that you are, is, life-changing for people. Not only that are working for you, but in the community that are receiving your service, as are for so many of the people I know that are with us today in the work and the spaces that they are working. And so try to remember that, find that moment of joy to recharge yourself. Debbie has given us so much to be able to fuel us. And I'm just so proud of all of you who made the time today to spend with us, because I know that that's hard. And that is a form of self-care. So thank you for putting yourself first and making the space for yourself to listen, learn, and be fed from Deb. I know if we were in person, she would have actually fed us with a lot of food, because Donnelly would have made sure of that. But we will be together in person soon. Again,
Yes.
November 1st, hopefully will be, one of the days. But again, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you to your team.
Yes.
Because I do know that you always consider your work a team effort. And I do know that you really have cultivated and created one of the best. And so, grateful to always be working alongside of them. Thank you to my team, because I can say the same from my group that has come together and, that helped make this opportunity today possible. I want to make sure that you all know how to learn about Bergen Newbridge Medical Center. We're going to put the chat in the chat, the website. We do encourage you to follow them on their social media, as we encourage you to follow us on our social media. That's really how you learn about what's happening in organizations. And there's so many reasons to connect with Bergen Newbridge Medical Center, not just for when you're kind of reactive and need some care, but in a proactive way. There's so many great programs happening there. So if you do stay connected to them, you'll learn about them. And we do hope that you take the time to fill out the Survey Monkey link that we're putting in the chat box for you right now as well. It's a great opportunity for us to hear from you about what you loved about this conversation, what you'd love to hear in future conversations. These conversations do happen because of sponsors like Bergen Newbridge Medical Center that come through and help support the work of the YW, so we can create this space for women to build themselves up and help them figure out their next turn and twist, ahead on their journey. And we're grateful again that to all of our sponsors that make space for that. Also want to make sure that you all know about, we have so many great programs for women. If you're not connected to them, again, if you're connected to our social media and to our website, you'll learn about them. If you're trying to start a business, we do have our Eureka program, which is an entrepreneurial program to help support that. There's no charge for that. We do have a writing workshop happening. That's a 3-part series that is no charge as well right now. That's a great place to help you find your voice and learn and how to tell your story, as Deb just did. There's so much power that comes from sharing stories, and we all have one. It's just a matter of kind of figuring, putting it down and kind of living your truth that comes with that. I'm so excited to tell you about our YW Tech program that's on its way. It's a free workforce development program for all women, especially non-white women, to learn more digital skills and help broaden their career options. So you can stay connected to us. If you are interested in supporting our period care packages that we've been putting together to help support menstrual equity, we are taking donations at the YWCA. And that's a project we're working alongside with the Flow Initiative and Project Local Access. We will be at the New Jersey Menstrual Equity Summit this Saturday in Newark. And so we'll be giving out some of our period care packages that we've been collecting. And that might be a project for us to do together, Deb. Yep. Make your center a hub for some of that collection, and then we can distribute them in the community. And we do always encourage you to, think about taking our 21-day challenge to learn about race, power, and privilege. And again, come to our gala, come party with us, come dance with us. It won't be in the kitchen, it won't be in the boardroom, but it will be in a great place with great food, great honorees, and great company. So we wish everyone a wonderful day. Thank you for making the time to be with us. And Deb, keep up the great work. We're so proud of you and so grateful that we have you in our community.
And thank you for your leadership, Helen. I am so excited to be on this panel, and I can't wait to dance with you guys in a couple weeks.
Bye, everyone. Be well.